Hello, and welcome to WJ Live, powered by the Western Journal. I'm Mike Lawson, the supervising reporting here at the Western Journal. Today, I'm joined by Cameron R. Cand, our columnist extraordinaire / intern / commentary writer / whatever you really need him to be. He does it all, really. And on my right, we got Tara Snyder, just a simply assignment editor.
Yeah, simply assignment editor, nothing else.
But, you know, we've got a lot of fun stuff for you guys today. We're going to be talking about parents destroying their school board over, mask mandates and all this nonsense. We have Mayor Pete back in the news for, surprise, surprise, not doing his job.
Yep.
Usually Democrats aren't in the news for actually doing their job. Have you noticed that? That seems the common theme is that they're usually not doing their job or doing it so horribly.
Yeah.
So we'll be talking about that. And lastly, at the end of the show, we'll be talking about Gina Carano and some pretty courageous stuff that she's doing over at the Daily Wire. But first, Cameron, what do you have for us?
Yeah, so Clark County, Nevada has been having some recent issues with their school board recently, specifically involving mask mandates. So a group of parents, we're going to have a clip in a second here, decided to take legal action against the school board, filing a $200 million lawsuit for medical malpractice for mandating masks. Let's roll the clip here.
The people in this country have had enough, and we are fighting back. I have something to give you. Security, would you do me a favor? Would you please hand those forms to the board members starting with Jara? You've been officially served a $200 million lawsuit with 6 complaints and violations under multiple amendments. Your job is not to be concerned with the children's health. You're not nurses. You're not doctors. You are not responsible for their health organization. Your only focus is on our children's education. Yet the education system here is 50th in the state, and you make almost more money than anybody else. It is very clear that you have failed at doing that job. This country is not alone. It's time that we wake up, and we're going to give you lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit. You can throw it out as much as you want, but we're going to keep this paperwork on your desk and keep a problem going until we get exactly what we want. This is not a negotiation. We will have our freedom of choice, and we're going to see you in court.
Your laugh is disgusting!
That was gold. I'm sorry. I'm not going to pretend that wasn't. But you see the lady pass it in the back, passing out the lawsuit to them, getting served with that. See, you might want your kid wearing a mask in a school, but there are a lot of parents who don't. And this is really just a matter of principle. And we've been seeing so much lately of parents finally waking up to the amount of stuff that their school board that their school district is just getting away with, whether it's mask mandates or quite literally what's happening in the curriculum. And I think coronavirus was kind of the breaking point for a lot of these parents, because they're like, wait, now all of a sudden my kid's being stuck in a Zoom class for a year, or now they're coming back to school and I now have to put a mask on my 5-year-old. That never made sense to me. Just be clear, before I got vaccinated, I was one of the, people are in comments going to make fun of me for this, but I wore a mask the entire time. I was very paranoid. I was a total germaphobe. But now when I see 5-year-olds wearing masks and small children, it gets me upset, because that is socialization. That is going to make these kids weird, period. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to dance around that. But kind of going into this, do you guys think that this is just kind of going to be a fad where parents are confronting the school boards? Do you think this will die down, or do you think that this will continue to build up?
Well, I guess for me, I think that it could become a fad, but as we've kind of discussed in the office, it's really about parents sticking up for their kids and realizing that a lot of the politics that are actually going to impact them are the politics that are happening at the local level. So I know even on Wednesday, Joey talked to the audience and you guys just about getting involved on your local school board and getting involved in local politics. So we can complain about Joe Biden all we want, but it's these lower level political institutions that are making a lot of these critical choices. And so I would like to believe that this isn't a fad, because I know that when I first came in here, even as an intern, one of my first assignments was talking to students about school board meetings and things like that. And so I think people are starting to wake up, and they're not going to send their kids to school without knowing exactly what's going on when they do go to school.
Now, I don't quite remember when all of the school board stuff started. I know it was several months back. I have a feeling it might have been almost a year back that we started seeing this stuff start to happen, but it hasn't slowed down at all. Yeah. And in the last couple months, it's really ramped up like even more. So no, I don't think it's going to slow down. Especially with, people calling for these parents to be called domestic terrorists, school boards saying, you can't come and protest. You can't come be mean to us. You can't, we're the school board. We're the people in power. You can't do that. So people are sick of that. People are angry at the Biden administration. They're not going to stop. What could happen is parents start to pull their kids out. They start to support school choice. We're seeing school choice laws sweep across the country. They're being implemented everywhere. We could see more movement behind laws like that. And, essentially the public school system, just that monopoly start to fade away. And I think that would be the way that you would, parents are going to stop going to school boards, not because they're tired of it, but because they've won.
Yeah. And I'll add this too. We had an incident happen at my own high school, like right the week before I graduated, where our yearbook was so politically slanted with the current events section, Trump versus Biden comparisons. It made national news with how ridiculous it was, this comparison. So few of us had a meeting, some conservative students and a parent had a closed door meeting with our principal and vice principal. And a lot of what we learned is a lot of these administrators are completely unaware of what's going on in their schools. Some of them are very well aware. Like, I think, we can talk about situation in Virginia at another time, but there is a lot of arguably willful ignorance that happens with this kind of stuff. And I remember my high school principal telling the group of us, this is the first legitimate concern about political bias in our curriculum that I have ever heard in my 20 years as principal. And that is shocking, honestly. But I feel like there is this new change happening where people are feeling more organized, they're feeling more prepared, and they're actually ready to take action. I know something that's very important. If people are looking to get active in their communities, find your local school board, especially if you're a parent. And if you are noticing issues in your child's education, there is typically a time for public comment with these things. So go out, get involved with this, and actually speak up for what you think is right. It's
making a difference. Like in Loudoun County, things are changing. One of the members of the school board just resigned over there. It makes a difference having your voice heard. And it's been amazing how educated parents across the country have become. I've known about CRT for a very long time. And I remember maybe a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, trying to explain it to one of my liberal friends. And they just looked at me like I was insane. Like, what are you talking about? That stuff isn't anywhere. Now, there are parents like in every state across the country, there are parents everywhere that know how to define CRT. They know how to identify CRT in their schools. And they know that it is, in fact, a huge problem. So, this is all really promising stuff. And, this lawsuit specifically, I think, is partially hilarious. They're suing him that much, but also really, it sends a really good message. So,
Yeah, and I think that's super important because, typically with these lawsuits, they're able to choose with the damages, like a very high number. That's just a common legal practice. But I think what's really great is that this actually has some teeth to it. And I feel like a lot of places don't care until you actually sue. Which is a really sad thing about our society just in general, that we've become so litigious. But we've hit a certain point where what choice do parents have? What choice do people have at this point? Because otherwise, just talk with them. At a certain point, that doesn't work anymore when it comes to these things. And you have to take that legal action.
I mean, I don't even know what else there is to say besides just even observing my own high school. I know that when I was in high school, there was a lot of controversy then too. And graduating and looking back, I'm still seeing stuff that was going on. Brad Taylor went viral for his school board meeting saying that he was going to leave school and eventually just get out. And it's just funny seeing that the slow dive that my high school has gone from, and I was aware of it at the time. And so I think it's really, really concerning because for a lot of people, they don't remember high school being this kind of indoctrination that it really was. And I think it's interesting because as I'm getting older, and Cameron and you, Michael, we have kind of grown from this and grown from these practices and ideas, and we're seeing the repercussions of it today. And so I think that the more aware people are and the more consequences people are facing, people are just going to start waking up.
Yeah, and they're going to start waking up to the fact that the elite, the politicians that gain all this power, they don't care about you. They push all these policies saying they do, but then, with their actions tell a very different story. They end up just, helping themselves, kind of like how Mayor Pete has just been helping himself while the country has been undergoing a crisis.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, if no one is aware, Pete Buttigieg came out and said that, I'm doing my job, everyone. I'm doing my job. Don't worry. And I think anytime you have to kind of come out, or your organization has to come out and says, don't worry, they're doing their job, you should be raising an eyebrow.
It's the Secretary of Transportation,
yes,
right?
Yeah. He's the Secretary of Transportation. And as we all know, there's a bunch of shortages going on throughout the country. There's empty shelves, just supply chain issues over and over again. Well, today it kind of broke and came out that Buttigieg had been out of office since mid-August. And it's just hilarious because obviously he adopted 2 children with his husband, and he claims to have only been offline except for in the case of major policy decisions. And it's like, okay, well, at least if you were fully gone with like paternal care, you could have been like, I was fully gone and I probably shouldn't have done that. But the fact that he's also saying, no, I was involved the whole time, it's like, great. We also have one of the worst shortages in history. So I guess you're kind of at a double-edged sword. And the White House has come forward, of course, saying that Buttigieg has been a good role model for parents across the nation and taking time off, and also claimed it highlighted the importance of paid leave. So I guess just off the cuff, before I go into my own analysis, do you guys think it's appropriate for Buttigieg to have been gone this long?
I personally, I don't see an issue with the paternity leave part of it. I do see an issue with the fact that, kind of like you said, how did no one for months get a hold, find out that he was just gone? That's problem one. Problem two is, if he was gone on paternity leave, that should have been announced, and they should have also said who was going to be filling his responsibilities during that, because this would be a much different story if it was like, oh, this is the person that's going to be in charge while he's gone, and we can redirect the questions to them pretty much. Mm-hmm. That's kind of not what's happening right now. And like you said, he's still kind of floating around for major policy things. Like you said, if he just kind of fell off the face of the earth for a few months and wasn't still taking calls and that sort of thing, once again, this would be a different story. So I don't think the issue here is that he's taking paternity leave. I think the issue here is the fact that there was no clear backup plan for making those major decisions.
Well, and if paternity leave's fine, if you're going to take paternity leave off since mid-August till now, I would think it's a bad idea for you to be in such an important position in the government. But yeah, that's, I have no problem with paternity leave, just like you, but
it's kind of a case by
case.
It's
been for 2 months.
Basis.
This just kind of seems a bit excessive.
Are we okay with every official in Biden's administration? Oh yeah, you get 2 months paternity leave whenever you want.
Yeah.
No,
if
that's
something
crazy.
critical happens, we'll give you a nice little call. Yeah, just don't worry about it. And so the White House came out and released a statement about this and said, Pete's been a key member of the team since day one and has been critical as we shepherd the president's agenda across the finish line, an official told Political. Okay, what agenda? What agenda? Because right now we're not getting goods shipped at all. There's huge shortages. There's nothing good. So what? Oh, Pete's fine. It's actually just another Biden disaster. Have we achieved so many Biden disasters that it's okay just to add another one to the pile?
Well, the thing is, when we talk about the Biden agenda, let's be real. They mean electric cars in that stupid railroad plan that they're constantly talking about with Amtrak. And that's what they mean about the Biden agenda. When they talk about the global supply chain, they're going to be like, oh, well, this is a global issue. They're going to do exactly what they've been saying with the gas price issue with inflation and OPEC and all of that. And so when they say that, that's just PR nonsense for he's basically a figurehead like a lot of these cabinet secretaries are. But you have some key decisions that they do have to make and certain things they do have to get run by and make decisions on. And I do think it's very concerning that he has been out of the light for so long, but we didn't know about it.
Yeah.
I feel like if there was some sort of public notification about this in August, not in October, this would be so much different, and we'd be able to hold whoever that is accountable. But I still think that even if he was there, would this even be different?
Yeah. I mean, it's Biden, Democrats in general, but Biden specifically doesn't know how to handle the economy. They just have no idea. They don't know I don't even think they've read an economic textbook between, the entire administration. But it's another big part of the story that I think is really important to note is that these issues keep happening because of the policies they're putting forward. And then they're just going like, oh, well, because of the pandemic, I mean, there's not really anything we could do.
Yeah.
I mean, this was going to happen anyway. Psaki just came out a few days ago, and maybe even today. I don't quite remember when she said it, but she said, yeah, this was always going to happen because of the pandemic. But, weeks ago or months ago when they were saying, oh, supply chain issues are bad now, but we'll solve them later, they weren't saying that it was going to be a problem because of the pandemic. So they always have that excuse to go back to. And thankfully, the American people aren't really falling for it. So that's something good to take out of this.
Yeah. And two, one thing I want to kind of just go back to is that there is a kind of level of difference in what your job is. When you're an elected leader of a country or like a leader, part of a team leading a country, I think that there has to be some, more difficult decisions made. And I know that the left doesn't like to say, oh, there's gender differences and sex is a thing and all of these things. We're all just supposed to be like these random non-gendered beings. But the thing I want to point out is that Buttigieg wasn't in the hospital. He didn't give birth. He didn't have a wife that gave birth. He had no one to take care of. These are two able-bodied adult men. To say that they needed kind of the same care as, a typical relationship or something like that. I just think it's kind of irresponsible because it's like you're not really dealing with the full deck of the situation that I think you normally would be in day-to-day life. So with that considered, do you think that changes your opinion at all on whether or not he should have gotten paternal leave?
Well, yeah. I mean, there's levels to this. So, Pete Buttigieg is in a gay relationship. He has a husband. Yeah. And the reason that maternity leave is such a big deal is because, a baby needs time to bond with the mother. The mother needs time to recover. It's a very maternal thing. I'm not opposed to paternity leave, but the baby needs a mother early on, and it's when that baby has developed and it's getting a little older, that's when it needs a father. That's when a child needs a father. So it's crazy on a lot of levels. But yeah, I don't know. What do you think, Cameron?
Personally, for me, I'll say it doesn't really change my view on it too much because I think as conservatives, we always need to make sure that we talk about pro-life and stuff, and adoption should always be looked at as a positive thing. Generally, I think that's kind of another conversation that we could have. But I still think that the principle of it is that his responsibility should have clearly been designated to somebody else. Or it should
absolutely.
Have been a shorter time
great way of putting it.
Or at least something should have been done differently in the pipeline of this, where whether he's there or not there needs to be someone to be held accountable in that specific area.
Yeah. And, shifting from, there's a lot of negative news going on all the time, it seems nowadays. So, we're going to wrap up the show by shifting to a little more positive news regarding Gina Carano. Now, if you don't remember Gina Carano, she was on Disney's The Mandalorian. She's a fan favorite actress. People love her. Mm-hmm. And she got, after she said some comments basically telling people, hey, when you dehumanize people because of differences you might have with them culturally, that can lead to greater evils, further on, like what happened with the Holocaust. She said that. And then she got fired. People called her racist. Disney came out with a statement saying, oh, yeah, we had to fire her because she was, disparaging people based on their ethnicities.
Oh, my gosh.
When that's literally what she was doing, the exact opposite. But anyway, Gina got fired, and that was really sad. And then the Daily Wire, with their brand new film studio, they hired her on as kind of their new movie star, and they started producing a movie with her. Mm-hmm. And so, Gina Carano was going to star and produce in this first movie. They were getting ready to ramp up production and filming. And then Hollywood came in and said, oh, wait a minute. We're going to make everyone on the cast and crew vaccinate and wear masks the entire time. We're going to force you guys to do that. And Carano responded by basically having the entire production canceled and moved to a red state. And we have a clip of her talking about it and then the Daily Wire CEO, Jeremy Boring, talking about it. And so we're going to play that clip for you right now.
And vaccines on anyone else.
So as Gina was saying, we had actually selected a completely different film. We even announced the film that we were going to make. We were very excited about it. And then Hollywood decided that maybe they would force masks and force vaccines on the crew. And Gina walked into my office here in Nashville and said, nah, I'm not doing that. We're going to have to find a different movie. And I said, Gina, you're a member of the union. Your union is the problem. She said, to hell with it, I'll quit my union. Let's make a movie up in Montana where they can't get after us.
Yeah, so she said, let's just, let's quit this movie. Let's just move everything to Montana where they can't touch us and film a movie there. And it's so inspiring on multiple levels. There's Gina, this was like a passion project for her, this movie. And so she gave it up because she did not want to force vaccines on anyone. And, what keeps happening to be the case is that none of these people are anti-vaxxers, all right? They just support medical freedom and that each individual should choose what the best medical option is for them. And so, Gina Carano is one of those people. She refused to force vaccines to the point she had her own movie canceled. And now they're filming this beautiful looking, you see some of the shots there of her on set. The movie looks beautiful. They're going to be filming out in Montana. It's going to be a Western called Terror on the Prairie. Just really exciting news. I want to get, what do you guys think about what she did there? Is that, we're starting to get some heroes fighting back.
Yeah, and I think that that's happening more broadly. I know that there's a lot of people in my personal life when it comes to the vaccine who aren't necessarily against it for any specific medical concern necessarily, but it's out of concern for the fact that the government is doing everything in their power to mandate it. And so a lot of people, I think, are going, no, you're not going to force me to do anything. And I think that that's what the concern becomes for a lot of people. And as Gina herself said, she said, I don't feel the need or feel that the government can and should be able to do that. And so I think it really, really is brave. We talk a lot about bravery nowadays in the media and the culture and, coming out of the closet is brave. This is brave. That is brave. This is an act of true bravery. And the fact that the mainstream media won't address it, the fact that the mainstream media isn't talking about her canceling her own movie just blows my mind because that's a lot to give up. And I think it just demonstrates the breaking point that the country has come to.
Yeah, and I think it's super important too. You never underestimate the power of the purse.
All
these things. And I think a lot of places, we hear this a lot with movie industries, but typically with a left-wing spin where they're like, this place is threatening not to film a movie in Texas or Georgia because of this law. And it's, it's this whole controversy. And yet she's moving her production over to Montana, probably barely going to make a blip on the mainstream media radar.
Yeah.
And I think what's so important about this is I think she's understanding that regardless of vaccination status, that if you mandate vaccines, you might lose some good people.
Yes.
And I don't know how rigorous the whole thing with medical or religious exemption is, but people who are just saying, hey, I don't want the vaccine, period, those could be very talented, qualified people in the entertainment industry, whether they're behind the scenes or actors. So I think Gina Carano understands that by moving the set, both on the matter of principle and on the matter of qualifications and having a strong workforce, she will, in essence, have a more efficient movie production set than probably a lot of places in Hollywood because there's just a whole lot less red tape.
Yeah. And the other part about this story that I really wanted to talk to you guys about is the Daily Wire itself, with their new film studio. They founded this studio out of the idea that, all of our institutions, our cultural institutions have been taken over by the left. It used to be that we could all watch the same movies, listen to the same music, but now it seems like almost everyone is embedded with some sort of political propaganda message telling us that we're stupid, evil, and incompetent. And I wanted to show you guys this clip of Jeremy Boring, Daily Wire CEO, same guy from the last clip. And he's talking about, what their goal is with making these movies with Gina Carano, with doing these TV shows. They have a TV show coming out with Adam Carolla. What's going to be the goal here? How are we going to take the country back? And here's what Jeremy Boring had to say.
If there is a chance for the country, it's actually through strength in division, not strength in unity. I think that there is a way for the country to come back together. It's not going to be easy, and it's not going to be fast. It's not going to happen if Donald Trump says he's running for re-election. It's not like 2024, the country's going to be back. It's not going to work that way. It's a huge mistake that conservatives make.
We always think we're one election away from the
next election.
Yeah.
No, this is a 40 or 50-year project
yes.
to bring the country back together. And before we start moving back toward each other, what we actually have to do is consolidate power on the right. They've bifurcated the culture, right? We used to have one culture. We all listen to the same music, and we all watch the same movies, and we all watch the same sports, and we all watch the same TV shows. And then the left said, except all of you. You can give us your money if you want to, but you're not allowed to enjoy the stuff that we make. We're going to lecture you. We're going to talk down to you. We're not going to give you what you want. Great. Let's make our own culture. Now they're bifurcating the economy. They're saying, no, Parler, you can't even use our servers. You can't engage in basic commerce with Amazon, the largest commerce institution in the history of the world. No, if you don't agree with the left, you're not even allowed to shop, basically. If you don't agree with the left, you're not allowed to talk. If you don't agree with So what do we have to do? We have to build our own economy. We have to accept the premise that bifurcation is upon us, and we have to start succeeding over here. If they say to half of the country, you can't, that half of the country needs to say, screw you, we will.
So I just thought that was such a perfect message, because so many of us think, we just got to keep battling over, a lot of Republicans think, we just need to control the federal government back, and then we can use that, and we can take out all of their ridiculous laws and implement our own. But that's not a sustainable solution, because then the left will just get back into power and put all of their laws back into place. So, like he said, what we need to do is create our own culture, create our own institutions, create our own economy, build up strong, and then eventually we'll all be able to come back together. What do you guys think about that?
Well, they think what a lot of the left thinks, particularly in entertainment, is that conservatives are a bunch of racists, people living in the middle of nowhere, doing nothing but going to Walmart and Cracker Barrel.
Yeah.
Like that's what they think of us. And they think the ones in Hollywood are severely misguided or whatever. I tried listening to one of those rewatch podcasts of a show, and I couldn't even make it through the second episode because they made a comment about a conservative actor that was on the show like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't even listen to a podcast without someone on there making a comment about a conservative actor and talking down to them. And this was a constant theme that I saw when I did theater. It's embedded in whether you're doing theater or film or whatever. It's just kind of embedded in this weird like Southern California bubble. And it kind of goes beyond that too, but it's very much ingrained in there, where they are such emotional thinkers that they believe that anyone who thinks differently than them is probably their racist Uncle Bob. Yeah, and that's what they view it as, and it is this uniform mindset.
Yes.
Where the problem here is, if I notice an issue with the script or something, or I think it's too politically driven, I won't be able to say anything, because if everyone around me is uniformly thinks that is the morally correct way of thinking, you're stuck, and that is a big problem. So I'm going to pass it over to you now.
Yeah, no, when it comes to entertainment and movies, that's always been a form of art, right? It's always been something where everyone can go and observe and look, and we all pull what we need from it. I think we kind of have lost the premise of art overall, because while people can say to me, art is always supposed to have a message, it's always supposed to have that deeper meaning, that deeper purpose, you can't get very deep when your only message is politics. people go to the movies because they want to see something inspiring. They want to see a story they can relate to, a story they can hope for. And so when you lose that basic human quality of having something to hope for, having something to wish for, having something to even dream about, when you lose that premise of it, you lose the entertainment aspect. So people are no longer entertained. They feel like they're being lectured, and we already have that every day on the news and in the media and shoved down our throats from Amazon, from Target, from all of these other big corporations. And I think that's the main issue here.
Well, there's a big distinction between, you know, a real artistic story and a propaganda piece.
Yeah.
And with a real artistic story, you know, a writer, a storyteller puts together some characters. He knows who they are on the inside. Then the story kind of writes itself. The characters make decisions that are true to those characters. In a propaganda piece, the artist knows exactly what kind of message he wants to send at the end.
Yep.
And he twists and molds the characters throughout the story to make sure that it fits that certain, you know, propaganda message. What I love about what the Daily Wire is doing is that they're not just making like Trump documentaries and stories about how, you know, unemployment benefits are so bad and just right-wing stories. They're not doing that. They're making art. And it's really exciting to see. They're going to be one of the most competitive, you know, film studios out there if they keep going on the trend that they're going, you know, with Run, Hide, Fight was an amazing movie, with some of the movies they have coming up. It's really exciting to see. And, you know, we need to take back the culture, and they're doing a good job of that. And any last things you wanted to say, Cameron?
I want to say, too, is there are so many people in the entertainment industry that are conservative because it is such a big industry.
Yes.
You just don't know they're there.
Oh, yeah.
I guarantee you, if you go to an open mic night for stand-up comedy, especially with comedians, there are so many of them that are conservative. But they will not dare say anything. You have people basically faking their personas and faking the things that they believe in, or just keep their mouth shut whenever anything political comes up, because they are so terrified of missing out on work because they need that paycheck. And I can't blame them for doing that, but there is certainly going to be a need for places like the Daily Wire.
Well, yeah, and I'm a huge fan of a lot of comedians, and you know, one of them, Tom Segura, he does a podcast with his wife. He talks about how if I have to choose between a super liberal and a super conservative audience, you know, Tom Segura is more liberal, but he would prefer to play in front of a conservative audience just because he knows he won't get, you know, yelled at for being politically incorrect. But anyway, we need to take back the culture. We need to create our own institutions. And that's one of the things that here at the Western Journal, we are trying to do. So if you want to help us out on that journey, please go to www.westernjournal.com/join. I almost screwed that up. They're going to show a little thing at the bottom of the screen. So just don't listen to what I say. Just kind of type that into your browser and help us out. You know, the big tech is always suppressing our stories. They don't want you to see them. Go there, you know, read our stories, support us if you feel like you can. Please do. You know, I was talking a lot of crap about Tara at the very beginning, but she does an amazing job here, just like Cameron does. And one of the reasons for that is the Western Journal is willing to take in these young journalists. You know, they took me in. This was my first full-time journalism job. Before that, I was just kind of a freelancer for various places. And they really teach us how to promote these values in an honest and truthful way and in an entertaining way. You know, read our stories. They're some of the best out there. So please, you know, join us at westernjournal.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Make sure to subscribe to www.youtube.com/WJLive. Subscribe and be sure to hit the bell as well, because YouTube definitely doesn't want you to get notifications when new episodes come out. If you hit the bell, you'll get just that. And I think that's about all we had for today, guys. So, you know, thank you so much for listening, and see you again next Monday.